So now coming onto the floor in a way that is protective of the body and the back. So perhaps using your arms to support you as you lay yourself down, your legs extended away from you and your feet relaxed and flopping out to the side. And the arms alongside the body and the back of the head resting on the floor. So similar position to what we may take up for a body scan. Although knowing that you also have the choice to take a seat and to practice the movements in a chair if that is more supportive, if you have pain in the lower back or discomfort in the body. You also have a choice of imagining the postures and the movements as vividly as possible if the actual movements are out of your reach or are unavailable to you for the practice today. So allowing the body to relax and soften, come to rest on the floor. And perhaps bringing to mind some of the helpful mindful attitudes that we have touched on. Perhaps attitudes of acceptance and patience, sense of allowing. Perhaps meeting our experience here today with curiosity. And as we bring this friendly awareness to our bodies as we move, tuning into the physical sensations, bringing a gentle and curious awareness to the types of movements and the way the movements feel in the body. And perhaps exploring the limits of the movement in the body, but taking care as we do so. So really taking the time to tune into the sensations so that we may pick up when we are close to our edge or close to our limitations. Or we might take some time to explore around those limitations, but again, doing so with care. So we're looking after the body, looking after our experience. At times, as you bring your attention to the body, you might find that the guidance that you're listening to is unsuitable. Perhaps a movement is unavailable to you, or perhaps there is an intense, overwhelming emotion or physical sensation. So if this is the case, if this is where you find yourself, then making the choice to honor your body, honor your experience, and making a choice that is caring and wise for you, even if that means disregarding the guidance and instead listening to your body and what's happening in your body. So perhaps that requires coming back to the breath, or perhaps it asks of you to change position, doing so mindfully and noticing what impact this has on the body as we change. So now bringing the attention to the body, perhaps bringing the attention to the contact points the body is making with the floor, sensing through the back of the body, the heels, the backs of the legs, the backs of the thighs and the buttocks, up the back of the body, the shoulder blades and the shoulders, perhaps the head where it's resting on the floor. Noticing any sensations of contact, such as pressure, any tingling or textures underneath the body. Perhaps feeling the body sinking into the ground. And then shifting the attention to the breath in the body. Finding somewhere in the body where you feel the breath moving. Perhaps stretching of the ribs or the muscles, the chest. Perhaps a gentle stream of air out the nose, in and out the nose. Following this breath as it moves in and as it moves out. Feeling the body lying here, breathing in and out. And then preparing to move into the next pose, we're going to slowly lift the arms up and overhead. So the arms lift up off the floor, arching up overhead, and then reaching back to come as close to the ground as is comfortable for the shoulders. Sensing into the shoulders and into the arms as they move. Any sensations of stretching, openness or compression. And then tuning into the arms as they reach backwards, reaching up behind the head and along the floor. And then slowly lifting them back up and over. Perhaps feeling the movement of air on the hands or the skin. Feeling the change in weight as the arms come to rest back on the floor beside us. Feeling the arms resting on the floor. And then lifting them up once again, moving slowly and mindfully. So taking care as we move, as we start to engage the shoulders, and checking that we're stretching the arms, but respecting our limits. So finding that edge, that place where you can feel the stretch in the shoulders without causing too much discomfort. And then lifting the arms up and over, feeling the changing sensations as the arms change position, lightness or heaviness. And then shifting the arms, so we're sliding them along the floor and up to shoulder height. So we're forming a T shape with the arms and the body. Fingertips still stretched out away from us, but alongside the body. And then bending the legs, perhaps one leg at a time, resting the soles of the feet on the floor. Feeling the bend in the legs and perhaps changes in the lower back. And then keeping the attention on the lower back, resting the attention here in a friendly way. We're going to gently press the back into the floor. Perhaps feeling how the tailbone curls up as we press the lower back down. And then with care, we're going to release the back, allowing it to arch in its natural curve once again. And then we're going to continue this curve by rolling the tailbone down and increasing the arch in the lower back. And then we'll repeat this cycle once more. So softening the lower back, allowing the lower back to come back to its natural curve, and then gently pressing the spine down into the mat, feeling how the hips, the pelvis tilts towards the face. And then rocking the pelvis once again away from us, rolling that tailbone down, pressing the tailbone down into the mat, creating more of an arch in the lower back. And then bringing the back to rest, bringing the back to neutral. So allowing the spine to take up its natural curves once again. And then lying here for a moment or two, tuning into the body after this movement, feeling the impact of the movement on the body. And then keeping a gentle awareness on the lower back, we're going to drop the knees over to the right hand side, bringing the back into a gentle twist. So again, as we explore the impact of the sensations that the body experiences in this position, remembering that we always have the choice, a choice about easing back a little if we need to, or changing the position. So perhaps coming back to center if you need to, resting the back and noticing what impact the back has, that the change has in the body. So bringing the knees back to center if you haven't already, and then dropping the knees over to the left hand side. Feeling the stretch in the left side of the body, the right side of the body. Exploring the way the sides of the body and the hips and the spine feel in this twisting position. And then repeating this once more on each side. So bringing the knees back to center, pausing for a moment, sensing into the back, into the legs, into the hips. And then allowing the legs to fall over to the right hand side. And then lifting the knees back to center and allowing the knees to fall to the left hand side. As we allow the body to soften and rest in this position, just sensing into the body, the back, the hips, the legs, maybe even subtle sensations such as the air on the face, or the skin of the hands or the feet. And then pressing the back gently into the floor, lifting the knees up and into the chest. And then wrapping the hands round the back of the knees, the back of the legs, and gently hugging the knees into the chest. Feeling the stretch behind the legs, over the buttocks, the lower back. Perhaps sensing some compression or stretching in the front of the body, in the front of the legs. So whatever's there, seeing if we can approach that with a curious friendliness. And then bringing one hand to the back of the head, and only doing this if this feels comfortable on the back and on the neck. We might lift the head up towards the knees as we draw the knees in towards the head. So maybe feeling how the body has to do a little bit of extra work to hold this position, to maintain this position. Remembering that at any point you can choose to release and come back down, bringing the body back into a resting position. So then releasing to the floor, releasing the head to the floor and the feet to the floor if you haven't already. And taking a moment to pause, scanning through the body. How does the body feel now in this moment? Any places where you might feel tingling, openness or stretched, maybe areas of tension. Maybe seeing if we can allow our attention just to rest in these places, just noticing, just allowing whatever's there to be there. So now moving intentionally but with care, drawing the right knee into the chest, gently squeezing it into the chest, and if it's comfortable for the back, extending the left leg. If having the left leg out straight is uncomfortable or causes pain, then keeping the left leg bent. Keeping the right knee gently squeezing in towards the chest. Scanning through the back of the leg for sensations. And then preparing to lift the head up to meet the knee, feeling the lower back press into the floor, and then lifting the head up with care. So taking care of the neck, taking care of the spine. And then dropping the head down to the ground, straightening out the right leg, bending the left knee, and drawing the left knee into the chest. So noticing what it feels like on this side of the body. And then if you did so on the other side, then lifting the head up to meet the knee. And again, choosing whether this is in your practice for today or not. So really sensing into the body and using the information the body is giving you, the sensations in the body, to choose whether or not to bring the head up to meet the knee. And then relaxing the head back down to the ground, bringing both feet to the ground. Letting the arms rest, the feet rest on the floor. Just sensing into the back, into the body, the front of the body and the back of the body. And then we're going to reach the hands up and back. So the hands are behind the head and the elbows are bent next to the head on the floor. And we're going to allow the knees to drop over to the right hand side. So once again, coming into a spinal twist, but this time having the arms, if it's comfortable, resting behind the head. And then drawing the knees back to the middle. Pause for a moment before letting the knees drop over to the left hand side. As the knees fall over to the left, noticing what impact this pose has or this movement has on the body. Does one side feel the same or different to another? And then mindfully and slowly we're going to come onto our hands and knees. So every transition is an opportunity for us to tune into the body and to be intentional about how we move. So as you find your way onto your hands and knees, perhaps by rolling onto your side first and then pressing into your hands to lift yourself up to protect your back, bringing attention to the whole body as we move, as we change orientation. We might notice different contact points, different places that the body is making contact with the floor, so perhaps the palms of the hands or the tops of the knees. We might notice a different view, so perhaps we're seeing different things, different colors, different shapes. So bringing a friendly awareness to any and all sensations that might be in our experience in this moment. And then bringing the wrists, the arms to stack underneath the shoulders, so they're pressing underneath the shoulders, and the knees stacked underneath the hips, providing stability for the body. And the spine lengthening through the crown of the head and through the base of the spine, allowing the spine to rest in its natural curvature. And then with a sense of care and attention to the spine, we're going to arch the back upwards, coming into what is called a cat pose, dropping the head down, tucking the tailbone under, and pressing the spine upwards, the hands pressing into the mat. And then we're going to reverse this posture, so dropping the belly down, lifting the chest up, a gentle lift of the gaze, taking care with the back of the neck. And then let's reverse this once again, so arching the back up once more. The head drops down, the tailbone tucks under. Feeling the stretch in the back of the body. Before we mindfully change back into cow position, with the belly dropping down, the hips lifting up and the chest lifting up. Moving gently and with awareness. And then making our way back to a neutral spine. So lifting the belly up and perhaps feeling a sense of extension. The front of the head, the top of the head reaching forwards and the base of the spine reaching backwards. And lengthening through the spine. So bringing a bit of alertness, but also a relaxed alertness or a relaxed lengthening in the spine. So from this position on all fours, we're then going to step the right leg back. So extending the right leg behind us, pressing the toes into the floor. And then finding your balance, pressing the right hand and the left knee into the ground. We're going to lift the left arm up and reach those left fingertips away from us. The right leg stretching back and the left arm reaching forwards. Perhaps noticing any wobbling or any heat or burning sensations. So taking care as we investigate the different sensations in the body. And as we bring the left hand down, the right leg down, perhaps taking any movements that you need to release any tension or bring some softness or relief into the body. So perhaps making circles with the wrists before bringing both hands down to the ground, both knees back down to the ground. And then stepping the left leg back this time, left toes resting on the floor, and the right hand reaching up and away from you. So fingertips reaching forwards, leg reaching back. And then bringing the right hand down, the left knee down to the ground. And taking a moment here on all fours, just to pause and tune into the body sensations. And then preparing to come to lie on our back with our knees bent and feet on the floor. And seeing if perhaps our minds have really jumped ahead or we're rushing into lying on the floor. And seeing if we might slow ourselves down, moving mindfully so we can tune into the sensations during the transition. So coming to lie on your back with the knees bent and the feet on the floor. And then reaching the arms up and overhead with the fingertips stretched away from us, perhaps the arms reaching down to the floor, perhaps not. But also having the option to keep the arms alongside the body, or perhaps resting in a T shape, if that's more comfortable on the shoulders. And then pressing the feet into the ground, we're going to lift the hips up. So coming into what is called a bridge pose. You keep pressing the feet down to the floor and lifting the hips up. Noticing any work the body has to do in order to keep the body in this position. And then slowly releasing. So letting the back down slowly onto the floor. Eventually letting the hips come down onto the floor. And if the hands have been reaching overhead, drawing the arms up and over until they're resting on the floor beside you once again. And then scanning into the body, noticing the impact of the pose on the body. And then keeping the arms alongside the body and pressing the feet into the floor once again, we're going to lift the hips up. So again, coming into this bridge shape with the body. The hips pressing up, the feet pressing down, the shoulders resting on the floor, the back of the head and the neck soft and resting on the floor. And then slowly lowering the back down and eventually the hips down to the ground. Pausing for a moment. And then we're going to lift the right leg up. So stretching the right leg up with the sole of the foot stretching up towards the ceiling and gently drawing the right leg in towards the face. So if you are struggling to keep the leg straight, or if you're finding difficulty in keeping the leg up in the air, you might choose to bend the knee, bringing the knee in towards the face. And then having the option of reaching the hands behind the knee or behind the thigh to pull the leg in a little closer to the head. So having a scan through the body to see if any unnecessary tension has arisen in the body, so perhaps in the neck or the shoulders, and perhaps softening in these areas. And then releasing the right leg, dropping the right foot back down to the floor, and swapping over to the other side. So lifting the left leg up into the air, the sole of the left leg reaching up towards the ceiling. Sensing into the lower back, into the back of the leg, into the hip crease. Perhaps noticing what the left leg is like compared to the right leg. Maybe sensing into what the right leg feels like today. So any little sensations or any large sensations that might be present right now. And then, if it's comfortable for the back and the body, reaching the hands around the back of the leg and gently drawing the leg in towards the face. Noticing how this impacts the stretch in the body. And then releasing the left leg, dropping the left foot to the ground, pausing for a moment, and just opening our awareness to take in the whole body, sensing how the whole body feels. So taking a moment here just to sense the body resting on the floor. And then as we transition onto our sides for the next position, perhaps choosing a side and rolling over onto that side, using the arms to support the head. So either the arm resting on the floor or perhaps resting on the elbow with the head in the hand. And then the legs in a gentle extension stretched away from the body. And then lifting the top leg up. So with a gentle flex in the foot, so the toes of the lifted leg gently pulling back towards the face, and the leg lifted up as high up as is comfortable for the body. So that needn't be very high up. It can just be hovering just above the other leg, or perhaps it can be reaching even higher than the hips. And then releasing that top leg down to join the other leg. And then mindfully making your way onto your other side. So you might just roll over onto your back and then onto your opposite side. And then lifting the top leg on your opposite side. Again, gently flexing the feet, feeling perhaps a stretch in the back of the leg, and exploring any sensations that this pose elicits in the body. Perhaps feeling muscles working to keep the leg lifted. Perhaps this feels like a little bit of shaking or a little bit of warmth in the body. And then dropping the lifted leg to meet the resting leg. And then rolling over onto the front of the body. So bending the arms and resting one hand on top of the other, and then bringing the forehead to rest on the hands, allowing the body to soften, and just exploring any sensations or opening the attention to any sensations that are present in the body. Perhaps noticing what it's like to be on the front of the body. So the front of the body making contact with the floor. And then gently lifting the right leg up off the floor so that it's rising up and reaching back behind you. Holding the right leg up and sensing what this feels like before relaxing the right leg back down to the ground. And then lifting the left leg up in the same way. Noticing if the left leg feels similar in any ways or if it feels different in any ways. And then slowly releasing the left leg down to the floor. And then reaching the arms back behind us so that the fingertips are reaching towards the feet. And taking great care with the neck and with the back as we do this next movement. So moving slowly, you need to lift the chest up and keeping the gaze down onto the floor so the back of the neck is long and soft. And then slowly releasing the chest down to the ground. And then finding your way onto your back. So using your hands to help yourself move in a supported way. And then coming onto your back with your knees bent and your feet flat on the floor. And then extending your arms out alongside you at shoulder height, forming a T shape. As we once again come into a spinal twist. So dropping the knees over to the left. And then perhaps if it's comfortable for the neck, gazing over the right shoulder. Allowing the weight of the knees to gently pull on the spine. And the gaze of the eyes can either be over the right shoulder or can be looking up. And then lifting the knees back to center, feeling how the back shifts and lengthens as the knees come back to center. And then letting the knees drop over to the right hand side. Perhaps bringing the gaze over the left shoulder this time. Or keeping the eyes gazing up at the ceiling if that's more supportive of the neck. And then drawing the knees back to center and bringing the gaze back to center as well if it's been looking over your shoulder. So allowing the body to rest here on the floor and either keeping the knees bent or perhaps if it's comfortable for the lower back, extending the legs one at a time until both legs are stretched out away from you. Resting the arms on the floor beside the body, perhaps with the back of the hands resting on the floor and the palms open to the room around you. And as we come into our final resting pose, taking this time to explore the body, to open the attention and take in the whole body as it lies here resting on the floor. So as we come full circle, we come back to the body lying on the floor. Perhaps once again tuning into the contact points that the body is making on the floor. And sensing into the different sensations that make up these contact points. Sensations of pressure, texture. Perhaps sensing into the spaces underneath the body. The hollow in the lower back, behind the neck, behind the knees. And then taking our time and moving with care as we lift ourselves up off the floor. So choosing a side to roll onto, perhaps with bent legs, pausing for a moment and allowing the body, or scanning into the body, checking into the body to sense what it feels like to be on our side. And using the hands to lift ourselves up, press ourselves up into a sitting position, taking care with the back, moving with care, moving with consideration, and tuning into the body. And then making any movements that feel comfortable, that feel good for the body, so perhaps stretching the arms, or maybe reaching up tall, or perhaps taking a little bit of a walk to reconnect, to give the body what it needs as we come to the end of our movement practice.